Hi, fourth graders. Welcome to your writing lesson for today. Today, we are going to talk about how we can write powerful endings for our stories. And by the end of today's lesson, you will know how to write a powerful ending for your story, whether you're there yet or not. Some of you might have already written an ending for your story and will need to go back and revise it. And some of you haven't gotten to the ending yet. No matter what stage you're at, that's okay. This is going to be some useful knowledge for you to work on your ending whenever you are ready to get there. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that endings are really important for your story because they bring the story full circle. One thing that I want to kind of put to rest are the endings that don't bring our story full circle. For example, the end. You should never have to put the end at the end of your story because your reader will know that it's the end because you will have done a great job of creating this powerful ending that wraps it up and brings that story full circle. So there will be no need for you to tell the reader that it's the end because they will know quite obviously that it's the end. Same thing with that's all. We're going to put that ending to rest too. I don't need for you to tell me that's all. I'll know that that's all because I'll feel like that's all by listening to your story. And they lived happily ever after. Well, that's another one that really doesn't bring your story full circle. It's not very powerful. Another ending that I don't have up here, but one that really doesn't bring the story full circle and that is commonly used is and then they woke up from their dream and they realized it was just a dream. I know a lot of you like to use that and it is creative. That is a creative idea, but it's been done many times before. And so we want for you guys to come up with a more original idea. And it really doesn't bring the story full circle. When we say bring the story full circle, we mean that we feel like you've taken the beginning, middle, and end and you've wrapped it all up. You've taken that trouble that was in the story and you resolved that trouble in the end. Whatever that trouble was, you made us feel like, okay, we understand how that problem was solved, or even if it wasn't solved. Remember, sometimes it's not solved, but we still feel like we understand the trouble that was in the story and how that trouble ends. So today, I want to teach you that when writers are writing their story, they take their time with the endings. It feels like so often we rush through the end. We get really excited about the beginning and we do a really good job of developing that plot in the middle. And then we're like, oh no, time's up. So I've got to come up with an ending real quick. And we rush that ending. And I want to teach you that writers take their time with their endings. They draft it and revise it until they find that one that just fits. And they know that that ending is going to tie up their loose ends. It's going to resolve the unresolved difficulties and bring home the story's meaning. So when I say that, what I mean is that it's really just going to wrap up the whole story. As you're writing your endings, I really want to encourage you guys to take your time with them. Don't rush through your endings because they really is important for you to have your beginning and your middle reflected in your ending. You're wrapping up the whole thing. It's the last part of your story that your reader hears. And so it's the part that they're kind of left with. And so you want to make sure that it's memorable for them, that they understand and they like the way that it ended, that they feel like you did a good job of wrapping it up. There's nothing worse than reading a book and loving the book and then at the end of the book feeling like, that's how it ended? I can't believe that. And feeling dissatisfied with the ending. So you want to make sure that your reader feels satisfied with the ending. So how do you do that? The best bit of advice that I can give you when you are writing or revising your ending is that your ending is already there. It's in the problem. Go back to your arc or go back to your draft where that problem is, where you talked about your problem. You drafted your problem already. And then remember that your ending, make sure that you tie up those loose ends with that problem. So what happens after that problem. It doesn't have to be happily ever after and it was solved, but what is the ending of that problem? What happens after that problem to resolve that? Whenever you tell someone a story about, so we had this problem at school. Well, what happened as a result of that problem? How did that problem get resolved? Did it get resolved? What happened? Those are the questions you want to ask yourself and you want to write down when you're writing down your ending. So here are some key questions that you need to consider whenever you're revising your ending. So when you read your ending, or if you haven't written your ending yet, these are some questions you want to ask yourself and you want to make sure you've answered in your ending. So can the reader see evidence of the main character's evolution? And what we mean when we say that is that your character may have started off showing some maybe timid or shy character traits in the beginning, and then they evolved into this blossoming character. Maybe that's not the character traits, but can we see the change over time? Can we see the change in your character over time? Okay, does your ending make sense or does it come out of nowhere? You are not putting in brand new characters and brand new events in your ending. It should not come out of nowhere. We shouldn't be like, wait a second, who is this character? How did this happen? What in the world? It just came out of nowhere. It should flow. It should make sense. You're not really introducing anything new in the ending. That's too confusing. Remember, your ending is wrapping it up. So make sure that it's not just coming out of nowhere and you're not just introducing new things in your ending. It's a wrap up of what you've already written. And that goes along with the next question. Are the loose ends tied up? Have I answered the reader's key questions? You don't want in the end for your reader to be like, well, what happened to that character? Or I thought that was supposed to happen. And did this ever happen? You want to make sure that those key questions are answered so your reader doesn't feel dissatisfied with the ending. And when I say that, I want you to know it's okay to leave them with a little bit suspense. It's okay to leave them on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but for the most part, you want to wrap it up. You're not really leaving them on a cliffhanger as much as you're leaving them wondering and wanting more. They want to know more, but it's in a good way. They feel like they understand what happened, but they want to know just like, oh, I just wish there was a part 2, you know? So you want to think about those things whenever you're writing your ending. And have you revealed everything you need for the story's purposes? Think about what the purposes of your story is. What is the story you wanted to tell? And did you make sure that you included everything that you wanted to tell in your story for that story's purpose? Going back to, especially if you're writing a story about a character or an event that you would want to see in the real world. So you have to think about those things whenever you're writing that ending, okay? So I understand, like I said, that you are all in different stages of your writing. Some of you have already written your ending and you just need to go back and now revise it. Make sure that you didn't rush through it. Make sure it answers all of those key questions. Some of you have not gotten to the ending part yet. You're still maybe working on the beginning. Maybe you're working on drafting the middle, the plot of the story. That's okay. You are all going to be in different places in your writing. So if you're not to the ending yet, just make sure that when you get to the ending, you keep these things in mind. You go back and take a look at these key questions that you need to make sure are answered by the end of your writing. Okay? If and when you finish this writing piece, the next lesson is going to be a revising lesson. So we're kind of done with all of the drafting lessons and now we're just going to start doing revising lessons. So this means if you are done with this first piece, go back to the very beginning, create an arc, and then start drafting scene by scene a new idea, a new piece. So in the end, you'll have a couple different pieces that you'll be able to choose from. If you're still working on this one piece, that's okay too. You just want to make sure that just when you're done with this first story that you're not sitting back and saying, okay, I'm done. I've got no more writing to do. Once you finish one writing piece, good writers then take a new idea and follow these steps and make sure that they start going with another writing piece too. I also included on here the part of the rubric for what your ending should be, and it kind of encompasses everything that we just talked about in this lesson. So we're looking, when we're reading your paper, we're looking for you to write an ending that connects the beginning or the middle of the story. So you're taking that information, like we said, coming full circle. We're making sure that that ending wraps up your beginning and middle, okay? Then we're also looking for you to do that by using action, dialogue, or just bringing your story to a close. Okay, so those are the things we're looking for when we take a look at your paper, when we're reading your paper. We can't wait to read your papers. So go ahead, get set, and write. Good luck, fourth graders.